Welcome back to Community Committee, and we're on item 12 on page 128. So I'll invite Cindy and Amy to present the summary of community funding allocations for the last year.
Good afternoon. I think my role is fairly short and sweet. Development Advisor Funding. I'm Amy Vars, but I met you this morning.
Thank you. Kira Koto, ko Cindy ko Ingo, Nareda, Tena Koto Katoa. This is the fourth annual funding overview report. So the report provides an overview of Council contestable community funding program for the financial year 2023-2024, comment on the trends seen over the previous 3 years where applicable, and comment on the future of each fund. Officers continue applying the outcome engines within Smart Grants so we can receive the value data that provide better insight into the impacts and outcome of our fundings. The performance data submitted by strategic project grants recipients in their second year of their 3-year funding show that 92% of clients reported an increased sense of community connection. 93% of clients reported an increase of confidence they had gained skill, knowledge, experience, and 96% of clients reported that they had received information and advice to meet their needs. This report also demonstrates that Council has a good range of fund types, catering for a wide variety of community needs and aspirations at different levels. So happy to take questions. I'm joined today by my colleagues who have contributed to the report and are also available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy. We'll open up for questions. First, we've got Councillor Naylor.
Thank you. Just looking at 3.2 on page 130, the list of the list of the funding programs. When we've had this report, I can't remember how long ago, but there was used to be the mayoral funds allocation included in there, like the mayoral relief fund, the mayoral discretionary fund. I think there used to be two or three mayoral funds that were included in this report, and I'm just wondering why those have dropped off and where that funding is reported.
Thank you for the question to Madam Chair. It must be before my time though, because I really don't have that information. So would Amy know or?
No, I'm not sure either, but we can find out for you and come back.
Thank you.
Through the Chair. Yeah, that's part of the mayoral discretionary funding that you talked about. That comes through as part of a separate report on mayoral's expenditure each.
Thank you. Just a question from me. In 4.3 in the summary, you've identified that event funding has been identified as an area of opportunity to improve processes and outcomes. Can you give us a bit more detail around that and what's planned?
Thank you for the question. The funding admins was left before, so we may come back later. Is that okay?
The question's really for Luke, and he's not available.
Okay, so you need him to answer that particular part.
He was here earlier.
Okay. Right. Well, if he doesn't come back, maybe you could just email the answer out. That would be helpful. Thank you. Councillor Barrett.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just a quick question around 4.1, where you indicate 2.9 million was allocated. Do we have a total figure of how much was requested across all the buckets?
Thanks. The 2.9 million is the total of the funding program we list in this report only. So I don't have in mind like outside of that.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I might not have stated the question clearly enough. What I'm trying to understand is how much was requested total compared to the 2.9 that we were able to distribute.
Across all of the funds,
Yep.
We don't have the money, the amount on top of my mind now, but yeah,
Could we get that sent round to elected members?
yes, we can get that. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Just one more from me. So you've said in your summary that you think that council has a good range of fund types.
Yeah.
Are there any gaps identified? And there is, think, we're not covering of community need or support that you've been asked about?
Thank you for the question. To my knowledge, it's quite comprehensive now with different area. So we have big fund like strategic priority grants to meet the ongoing costs of the community development, and then we have like community lead initiative fund for the small scale projects and events, and then we have special fund like arts for special need, or sport fund, or active community fund for something more active and sport outside. So yeah, and then some big event like arts event or sport event would bring more economics to community, to our city. So it's, yeah, to me it feel like it's high variety. Yeah.
Okay.
if I could just add to that, one thing that's come to our attention recently is a request from community groups who are experiencing economic hardship due to the reduction in funding, particularly from central government. So we have had a couple of queries recently around hardship funding, which we're not able to provide, but which groups have been going to Puharikiki for funding, but there's very limited scope to respond in that way.
So we don't have a fund to provide hardship.
We don't
For-
directly deliver a fund.
Okay.
No, there's no
And
admin.
my understanding is that Te Puharikiki have only got quite a small fund that they put aside from the small grants that they can
Yes,
use.
I believe it's
Yeah, they did.
20,000.
Can I, committee who run the small grants one, if I have a question?
Yes, I suppose so. Bit unorthodox, but we'll allow it.
Yes, so Cam from the Te Puharikiki, the treasurer for the, so as part of that I oversee the allocation of small grants fund. So out of the pool of the small grants fund, we allocate a proportion of that, so it's been about $5,000 a year to the emergency grant fund. But obviously when we've already this financial year had 2 emergency grant applications, that fund gets allocated pretty much out of the stock. And the problem we have with that is we can increase the amount of money allocated to the emergency fund as part of the scope of the small grants fund, but that would then take away from the actual pool of fund that gets administered to the organisation. Potentially, if we're not careful, putting organisations in because they would be having access to less funding because we're squirreling it away for an emergency.
Yeah,
So,
no, I understand. Thank you.
So it is only currently has been 5,000 this year. We had, I think, about 7,000 in the pot because we had some left over from last year. But again, we've already had 2 applications, so that's already been 5,000 already used
Okay, thank you.
from this
Thanks,
year's
Sam.
pool. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there are no other questions, so thank you very much for your report and for presenting it and answering questions. So I'm happy to move the recommendation that we receive the report entitled Summary of Community Funding Allocations, 1st of July 2023 to 30 June 2024. I'll look for a seconder, Councillor Hancock. I guess just some brief comments from me. The first one is that I think that this continues to be a very useful report. in terms of the information that it gives us about how community support is being allocated across different areas, and gives us some reassurance that we've got good coverage. I would be interested in the figure around how much is requested versus the amount that's allocated, because, and I think the report does make this point, with contestable funding, often the requests for funding are far in excess of the fund itself. So we just need to understand that gap and how big it is to be sure that we've got the size of the pot correct. In terms of the event funding, I'll be keen to, I'm just looking to see if Luke has appeared. No, he hasn't. I'll be keen to find out what the area of opportunity is and what the process and outcomes might be to improve that. And I think the emerging need for a hardship fund might be something that we need to give some consideration to, particularly as I'm aware that a number of groups are losing government funding and often are in a situation where they the threat of that. So I think again that will perhaps to have might be something that we might need to consider doing some research into what the extent of that problem is prior to the annual budget. But anyway, thank you very much for the report, and I'll open up if there's comments from any other elected members. Nope. Okay, that's great. We'll put it to the vote. Thank you. And that's carried, 8 votes for and none against. So that Thank you. And that's carried, 8 votes for and none against. Okay, so that's to the committee work schedule on page 171. And I'll just ask Kerry Lee if she's got any comments. No? Okay, any questions on the work schedule? The question I have is that we've got quite a lot of reports coming in March, which looks like it's going to be a very busy committee, but only a couple for December. So I don't know if it's possible to have a look at that distribution of work and maybe see if we can spread some of that out, but that's my only comment.
I'll talk to Danelle and see what we can do.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Naylor.
Thanks. Just a question around number 5, which is develop a community housing partnership plan that's scheduled for the 4th of December. I'm just wanting to check that's got the direction as being from the 31st of May, and I recall that there were a number of directions given around the similar topic. One, the first one being in February, that was about trying to find opportunities or models that would enable us to meet more closely within our policy limits. And so I'm just wondering, is that report including the direction given in February as well? I think someone suggested they were going to all get packaged together.
I'll just ask David to answer that, but I think you might be getting confused between two different things, but I'll get David to answer.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, David Murphy, General Manager, Strategic Planning. So I think I provided some advice some point in the last month or two in the chamber about the fact that there's actually, if you tally them up, there's probably 4 or 5 or 6 resolutions council has passed regarding social housing, the potential use of a CCO, alternative social housing delivery models, community housing partnership plan. Mm-hmm. What we're looking at doing is there's a workshop scheduled for the middle of November. We would like to go over all of those resolutions and then provide a pathway forward with a report coming back into the chamber on next steps. All of those resolutions are related to each other in some way, shape or form, and there needs to be a clear path forward in terms of efficient use of our time in terms of reporting back on all of those. So I think while at the moment there is a partnership on the work schedule, I think the nature of that report will by the conversation we have at the upcoming workshop.
Thank you. So would it be useful to include that direction in there if that's going to be all amalgamated together? I just wouldn't like to lose sight of that direction. If it's a discussion in a workshop that then informs what comes back.
I guess the challenge we have is at the moment, the direction is the direction. So there's been a series of resolutions passed, and that is one of them. We've talked about capital D direction and little d direction. I think what we're seeking in the workshop is a little d direction about the best way to take all of this work forward. So I think at the moment, the resolutions and work schedule probably need to stay as they are because they reflect the capital D direction that's being provided.
Sorry, perhaps I wasn't clear. So what I'm suggesting is there was a resolution in February of this year at the council meeting to seek models that would potentially help us operate within our policy limits. And I guess what I'm asking is that going to be included in this?
Sorry, David.
So that exists. That item you're referring to is later in the work schedule. So it's down as TBC 2025.
Yeah.
So item 20. So what we're saying is there are a series of resolutions through the work schedule that all relate to social housing, but they need to come together and in terms of a path forward. Because I think if we were just to respond to each direction individually, it's probably not going to be a productive use of anyone's time. So that's the purpose of the workshop.
Yeah. Yeah, my understanding of the one that's coming in December is that was a response to the notice of motion that myself and Councillor Wood put up about a community housing partnership model. Is that correct? not related to our own social housing.
That's correct, but we'll cover it in the workshop, but I think there is a relationship between whatever a community housing partnership plan is and the other resolutions regarding social housing.
Okay. Does that answer the question? Okay. Right, well, there's no more questions, so we'll accept the work schedule and second Councillor Hancock, and we'll take a vote. Thank you. Oh, sorry, is there any comment? Okay. That's carried, 8 votes for and none against. So now we need to resolve to go into part 2. So we've got a resolution a recommendation to exclude the public for discussion of the provisional local alcohol policy progress update and reasons given there, protecting health and safety, maintaining legal privilege. So I'm happy to move that we go into part 2. Councillor Hancock will second. Do we need that up on the screen, or can we just go as we are? Yep. Okay, is there any comment, question or comment? Oh, Councillor Wood.
Sorry to be pedantic, just interested in the protect health and safety of the public. I can appreciate how this absolutely relates to maintaining legal privilege, but could I perhaps seek some comment from officers as to why health and safety has been used as one of the reasons for part 2?
You may. I'm looking around to see who wants to answer.
Perhaps governance or?
Governance or... sorry, I think Peter is going to answer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wish I could give you a very clear and straightforward answer. This was on the advice of the legal team. I think the intention is that because the alcohol policy has a health and safety element, that was the reason for invoking this. From my perspective, though, it's the legal privilege, provisions which are the most significant here.
Okay. I guess.
Thank you, Peter. Right. Any comment? Oh, okay. Councillor Naylor.
I'm happy to vote for this to go into part 2, but health and safety is related to the content, but it's not a reason for us to be voting for it to go into part 2. So I'm a bit about that. Anyway. And if it's been identified as a reason for us to be talking about it in part 2, that doesn't really sit well with me. But I'm happy to support it going into part 2 for the other reason.
Any further comment? Okay, let's take a vote. Okay, that's carried. 7 votes for and 1 against. Who voted? Oh, okay. So we'll just take a 5-minute kind of break to do the turn